department stores offered a dream world of material luxury, promoting shopping as an experience to savor. And stores became the cathedrals for a new faith on the march. But there was one country in which shopping and consumerism would become a way of life. By the early 20th century, Americans had the highest personal wealth of any country in the world, creating huge new markets. Enterprising business people realized that they could make their fortunes by manufacturing luxury items at prices the American working classes could afford. Henry Ford's assembly line made cars which were previously the preserve of just a privileged few available to all. Many other products were soon to follow. By the 1920s, the ordinary man and woman in America had come to believe that affluence was their birthright. And to have access to consumer wealth became an integral part of the American dream.
It was around this time that consumerism took a very different turn, stimulating and manipulating people's desires, spinning dreams, subtly creating envy. And as the advertising industry really took off, temptation and seduction became at least as important as providing information.
Big business and its advertising agencies turned to the science of psychology. One of the pioneers was Edward Bernays, who would become known as the father of public relations. He was fascinated by the discoveries of Freud and other psychiatrists. He believed that if you understood what motivated people, you could influence their behavior without them knowing about it, and cajole them into buying even more. He said, "In almost every act of our daily lives, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind." Advertisers started to work out how to play on our subconscious. It wasn't what the product did that mattered, it was the kind of person it promised to make you feel. Consumerism was now deep inside our heads, exploiting our deepest feelings, our emotions, and even our identities. We were all being trained to desire. But consumerism didn't always go unopposed. Most famously, in the 1960s, the hippie movement rebelled against rampant capitalism. It transformed this disgust with materialism not just into a philosophy, but into a new way of living too. Millions attempted to drop out. It was a movement that had enormous appeal. This was pretty much the point when I first got involved, as the environment and social justice grabbed my attention and suppressed whatever shopping gene I may once have had. It all started in a comprehensive in West London, where I spent 10 years of my life teaching English and drama.
I wasn't exactly an out-and-out hippie, but even then I can remember the kids constantly taking the piss out of me for choosing to own a bicycle rather than a car, for never buying new clothes until I absolutely had to because the old ones were falling to pieces. To them, I just wasn't doing my duty as a consumer. So even in the 70s, the juggernaut of consumerism was grinding into top gear, and trashing the environment was almost universally accepted as a reasonable price to pay for all that increased consumption.
However, by the end of the 1970s, the environmentalist message was beginning to be taken seriously. Organizations like Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth, of which I was then the director, captured the headlines. But then, America and the West took a fateful step. A new breed of politicians dismissed environmental warnings and ushered in an age of even more rampant materialism. Hippies were now replaced by yuppies, and a new philosophy ruled: greed is good. Throughout the 80s, we were all encouraged to measure our success by how much we earned and how much we bought. And today's successors to Thatcher and Reagan have done little to set aside the toxic legacy of such triumphalist individualism. Such is the momentum of consumerism that nothing has been able to slow its relentless march. After 9/11, with America shaken to its core, President Bush told the nation to demonstrate they were unbowed by this assault on the American way of life by going shopping.
We cannot let the terrorists achieve the objective of frightening our nation to the point where we don't conduct business, where people don't shop.
You can see what the president meant. Behaving normally was the best response. And normality in today's economy means being out there shopping.
Nothing, not even international terrorism, would be allowed to stand between the people and their pursuit of the great American dream.
The irony is that the biggest threat to the United States and to the rest of the world isn't terrorism. It's consumerism itself. We've unleashed so powerful a force that our politicians simply don't know how to get this particular genie back into its bottle. But there are practical solutions, if we have the courage to act on them now. It is now almost 250 years since the philosopher Adam Smith told us that the pursuit of wealth was not just good for the individual, but good for society too. We are all beneficiaries of that extraordinary transformation. Today we are all spoiled for choice, as long as you can afford it. And globalization means that the hamburger you buy in China will taste the same as the one you buy in the United States. Consumerism has become the global language that everyone understands.
At the beginning of the 21st century, there are now more than 2 billion people able to enjoy the fruits of mass consumption. Whichever way you cut it, that's an extraordinary achievement. You just can't deny that represents progress with a capital P.
But at long last, we're beginning to realize just how high a price we're having to pay for this. Visit any old landfill site and you'll begin to see what I mean. Here in Britain, we get rid of our own body weight in rubbish every 7 weeks. And the amount of rubbish we throw away just keeps growing. There are 12,000 landfill sites in the UK alone dedicated to dealing with the 100 million tons of waste we produce each year.
Buy it one day, chuck it the next. In our throwaway world, who cares?
We throw out 1.5 million computers every year. 99% of them in perfect working order. On average, we buy a new mobile phone every 18 months. Leaving 90 million working handsets hoarded in cupboards up and down the country. And 3 million fridges are discarded every year. Every year we buy more products, more things we think we need, using more energy, creating more waste. It's this seemingly inexorable process which is now threatening life on Earth.
So, am I being overdramatic? Well, just look at the evidence. What were once the dodgy projections of so-called extremists like myself on waste, energy, water and so on are now the hard-edged scientific data of government research departments.